Hi, I'm Amy Bernstein with Bernstein Realty. Thank you again for tuning in to our yet another podcast. And today I am so excited to have Janice Ratliff with me in the podcast room. And Janice, I will tell you that I always tell people that one of my best days of my life was the day I met you. And that was over 35 years ago. Yeah. And I'll remember that a person called me and said, I have a student in my class. This was over 35 years ago. And he said, I have a student in my class. She's amazing. I've just met her, but I can tell you she's amazing. And I'm going to send her to you to interview. And she's going to be a new agent, and she is going to set the world on fire in this business. And so I met you, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I want to work with you so badly. But then when we hired you, I remember that I know that you came from a corporate job.
Corporate America,
so tell us where.
Well, yeah, I was in corporate America, and I actually was handling some real estate for them, investment properties and things like that. And so I was very interested in real estate, and I'd worked with a lot of agents on the buyer's end, and I thought, I could do that. So I went to class, and I got the intro to you, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. And I remember your first day on the job. You came in at 8:30 on the button, and you were standing in the coffee room of our old office location, and you looked so sad, like you were going to cry. And I said, what's wrong? And what did you say?
Where is everybody? Everybody.
And I said, Janice, this is real estate. Nothing starts at 8:30 in the morning in the office.
I found out quickly that you don't have to be there.
And the rest is, so 35 years later, the rest is history. But I can tell you that after the first year of Janice joining Bernstein Realty, I made her pinky swear that we would always work together, and that we would always stay in the business together, work together, and retire together. So we have pinky sworn, and we kept it. So as you know, we do a lot of relocation work at Bernstein Realty, and those relocation buyers that come from lots of major corporations typically don't know much about Houston and want to see Houston, and they want to see the surrounding suburbs of Houston. And a lot of these people that relocate either into or out of Houston live in the suburbs. And because we do so much work in the energy corridor, that brings us to Katy and the Woodlands and Sugar Land and a lot of those areas on a regular basis. And Janice is a resident of Cinco Ranch in Katy, and so she's always kind of our go-to girl when we have Katy questions or Katy buyers or any of that. And she has built an amazing career, not just in Katy, but she knows Katy so well, but she also works other areas, because when you do a great job for somebody and they refer you to your family and friends, not everybody lives in one area, so you have to know all the areas of Houston. So we are very fortunate. Janice really knows all the areas of Houston. So Janice, when we have somebody relocating to Houston, we are so excited to give them to you. Number one, we know that they're going to get amazing service. That started day one. But now 35 years of experience, they're going to get amazing service. But not only that, is we know they're going to make a total love connection with you. And so I know that I gave you a customer, a really good friend of mine's mother, to help them. And they sold their home in Katy, and then they bought in the city. And they just said they would never make a move without you. So tell us how the process starts when we call and say we have a transferee moving to or from Houston. Can you help them? What goes in? How do you start the ball rolling?
Well, our first conversation usually is their needs. You have to always think of, this person is moving, they might be moving from another country, they might be moving from Dallas, but this is a new area, and they're very concerned about commute times, and right up there, if they have children, it's all about schools. And so
schools always. So what would you say is the number one thing? Let's prioritize. What is the number one concern for most people moving to Houston?
If they have children, it's schools.
Schools.
They've done their homework. I mean, you can get so much information online now. But I sort of, when we start having that discussion, they might know a district, the school district they're interested in. And, before 9/11, I used to take them on personal tours of the schools. Can't do that anymore.
Is that all schools you can't do that now?
Yeah, right. It's a security issue.
Got it.
So yeah, we used to spend sometimes 2 or 3 days touring schools, and now a lot of that information is handled prior to even coming.
I did not know that you couldn't tour in the schools anymore.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah, they don't allow it.
And so then what's the number 2, would you say?
Commute.
I was going to say.
Commute.
So
yeah.
isn't that interesting? Schools trumps commute.
If they have children, absolutely. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it really depends on the age of the children. A lot of these relocations, the families have already done their homework, and they know it's not just about, it's extracurricular activities. Some of them are very interested in sports, and it just really depends on what they want to make this move to Houston or the greater Houston area as easy and seamless for their children as possible. So it's really important to them to get them into a similar type environment that they're coming from.
So if somebody says, I'm moving to Houston, I don't know whether I want to be in the Woodlands or Katy or Sugarland, what do? You do, I know it's called, what we call in the office, basically a needs assessment.
Yes.
And then you just throw them in your car and start at it?
Well, no, actually what I'll do is I set up an automatic notification. I go online and set up different communities that I think they might be interested, or they think that they're interested in. Houston is a huge city, so if you want to look in Sugarland all the way up to the Woodlands, we'll divide that tour into areas of town. And I give them before they ever come, I give them the automatic notification is a list from HAR that shows houses that are available that meet their search criteria, such as price, number of rooms. Some of them come here and they've promised their kids they're only going to look at houses with pools. I've had a few of those this summer. So yes. That is going to be part of the search criteria. If I see there's not a lot of inventory, then I'll tell them, hey, I'm going to set up a second search for that neighborhood that's going to have everything because there were only a couple of homes with pools. So I have to kind of guide them into, you may not be able to get a house with a pool, but guess what? That neighborhood has 14 area amenity pools, and they have, your children, if they're in swim team, they have pools for, different needs. Yes. So they may change their criteria based on the fact that they're not going to get that pool in their backyard. But as long as I can show them that the neighborhood has these wonderful amenities, then that makes a big difference as to maybe what they'll look at.
And so why are people opposed to? Are they opposed to building a pool, or is it? What's the number one reason for getting an existing pool?
You know what I think it is? The cost of pools now. If you're buying a $700,000 or $800,000 home, and the pool that you would want could be another $125,000 to $150,000.
Isn't that shocking?
Yes.
So when we first got in the industry, we're dating ourselves a little bit. Back in 1980, I think 7 for you, right? Yeah. 85, 87. How much were pools back
then?
Really,
$25,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't
and they've gone
crazy?
Up a lot over the years.
Yes.
And now just really exponentially over the last 5 years, what we used to could build for under 100 is going to be over. And it's not just the pool that they're putting in. A lot of them are putting in outdoor kitchens and pavilions, and if the backyard handles it, they're putting in these whole, the backyard is a major living area for these families.
I always say a nice backyard, that has entertaining and things like that adds another room in a house.
It does,
for
yes,
sure.
Yes.
So are you seeing a lot of these buyers finance? Can they build those pools into their mortgage?
They can, but with the interest rates as they have been, a lot of people aren't doing home improvement loans because they were more expensive. So I think all of those reasons are why people would prefer to have that pool in. They don't, if they have any knowledge about what it takes to build a pool and the length of time, in addition to the price of the pool, then I feel like that leads them to wanting a pool in their backyard.
I remember a long time ago, I had one transferee that said that their company protected them on any loss on sale if they transferred them within the first couple years after they bought. And so the only way to recoup, if they put a pool in on their own afterwards, that does not fall under that umbrella.
Right.
So
I haven't seen anyone roll a pool in quite a while.
Really interesting. Okay. So then, what's really great and what I've watched your career over the years, and it's really been a treat to watch your career. I remember in the very beginning you said, Amy, I'm going to write my own newsletter every single month. And I said, okay, I think that's great, Janice. You go for it. And then you got so busy that you couldn't find time to write your own newsletter every single month. But I've always seen you very active in the neighborhoods. So we've gone from Santa. Tell us some of your holiday
So
festivities.
Mrs. Claus, and I will tell you this, I'm working with the family
And you
right
are
now.
the best Mrs. Claus I've ever seen.
My husband is Santa, I'm Mrs. Claus. So this family that I'm working with right now, when they first moved here 30 years ago, the boys were at Fielder Elementary, which is a house, they lived in Seco Ranch, and it's an elementary school there. They moved to Cairo, they came back. They moved to London, they came back, and I sold them their home every time they would come back. Then the boys went to college and they went to law school, and I sold them a house in the Heights. So now I've sold the house in the Heights, and both boys are now married and wanting to move back to the burbs. So one of them...
Isn't that fun?
Yes.
I you know what? I think that is absolutely... There's a lot of things I love about the real estate business. Most things I really love about the real estate business. But the one thing that I really love the most is how much a part of their lives we it's a friendship that is... It just expands the house.
They
right?
remember. Every now and then they'll say, look, this is when I was, it's a picture of me with Santa and Mrs. Claus.
Aww.
So it definitely, you make lifetime friends, for lifelong.
And then you start helping their children, right? So
This
isn't that what you're doing now?
This is second generation. And I told them the other day, I said, they may not remember this, but for my special clients, we'll be making a special, a delivery to you during the holidays by Mrs. Claus and Santa, and they love it. I mean, they've got these little kids that they're very excited about it.
And we used to dress you guys, or y'all used to dress up, and it was your husband Ron and you were Santa and Mrs. Claus, and we would go and visit all the corporations downtown,
the law firms
downtown, and then we got on. Then Ron rode on his Harley. We had Santa on a Harley, and I mean, we just had some really great times over the years, just appreciating the client. And I really feel that most real estate brokers that have been in this business long enough are just, the one word that comes to mind is grateful, right? Just grateful for the repeat business of the customer. And I think that doesn't come by accident, though. You always go above and beyond for your clients. So tell the consumers and tell the public just a little bit about what over and above means to you with your clients, because you do far more than just sell a house.
Well, in today's market, there's so much knowledge at our fingertips. But what I'm finding is that you can, when you're doing research on a home that you're going to buy, you can look into the archives and find out the history of that home. And sometimes the current owner may not know that a certain thing happened, or how old a roof is, for example. And this has been coming up a lot lately, where they may fill out a seller's disclosure that may not be accurate. And they're always really surprised when I can go into archives and find out, and you can pull up the old seller's disclosures. So kind of have become an investigator, and there's just so much information. I know you can find out what the seller paid for the home, and you can go back and look at archive photos to see what sort of improvements they've made between when they bought it and now that they're selling it.
Yes.
That is very interesting, because sometimes they may tell you, here's a long list of everything that we've done to the house, and I go back and find, oh, actually it was done.
It was part of the sales price when they bought
it.
Exactly,
Yes. So
exactly.
there's a lot of information like that, and I think that my clients really love whenever I'm able to share that kind of information with them. They love any kind of reports. The disclosures have become, now with insurance, it's become more difficult to get insurance with a roof that's over 10 years.
Yes.
So there have been several sellers that may have put 8 or 9 years, and then we do the inspection, and they turn out to be a 15-year-old roof.
Yes.
and it's something that I can save a lot of money for my buyers by finding this stuff out before I even let them put an offer on a house.
Yes.
So I think that today's client really appreciates any information that I can gather for them.
And I will just give a shout out, because I adore you, but I am very proud of you. I love having you as a friend, but I love having you as a colleague. You know that so much. And one thing I'm very proud of is sometimes we'll do a corporate move, and you may handle, the first 1, 2, or 3 people that come into town, and then they go back and they tell all their friends. So it seems like Janice is doing the whole move. But that's the biggest compliment that you can get, is when they refer their family and their friends to you. So tell us some of the areas that tell us just your thoughts about Houston over the last 35 years and what you've seen. It used to be, when someone said, I want to live in Katy, or someone said, I want to live in the Woodlands, you go, oh my God, that's so far. So tell us a little bit about those areas, the areas that you service, and what you've seen over the years.
Well, as Katy expanded, they now have kind of rolled over into Fulshire. And so Fulshire, it's landlocked to Simonton. So you have homes that used to be in Weston Lakes that used to be considered like second homes. That's now a community where people live and commute. And so I do a lot of the far west burbs, and just last week I sold one in Tomball. So so I'm kind of all over the place. And I will tell you, that particular client came in wanting to live in Katy. They could not find what they wanted in their price point in Katy. So we just slowly started expanding our search until we found one that they liked and bought.
So your practice really goes from the suburbs all the way into the city.
Yes.
And that you'll work all these areas. What sort of things do you tell them? Like, what sort of things do you tell them to look for in comparing, like, a Katy versus a Tomball? What sort of things do you tell them?
Well, I'll do, for each home that they've narrowed down that they like, I do there's a report online called a market analysis, and I'll do a full-on market analysis to show them this is what your dollar buys in this neighborhood.
Nice.
And wherever they are looking. And a lot of times it will help them decide on where they want to live. If they can, like the people that bought in Tomball, felt like they got more house, for their dollar. And he works from home, so he wasn't having to commute. So it would be quite a commute if he were having to go into the city every day, but he doesn't. So for that reason, they ended up buying, and they got the perfect house for them.
Do you find that you have to educate? I know you do educate, but do you find that you catch people off guard with tax rates, and especially people that move to Houston and mud taxes? You have to explain all that.
Well, that's all. Yes, that's part of the process. When I do the CMAs, I let them see what the breakdown of the taxes. And if you live in the city, you have city water, so you don't have a mud district. And if you live in the burbs, you're going to have a mud tax. Your water's less expensive. So I go through all of that. It's not just the taxes. I also, like in a case like that, I might show them, if you were to buy the same home, your water would actually cost quite a bit more if you lived in the city. So it just really depends on the client. If that's an important part for them, then
Sure.
I make sure that I reach the taxes. The other thing with taxes now is that we disclose on MLS the tax before any homestead or senior or any other.
We're going to get ready to get that senior exemption.
I have it.
No.
Yes, I do have it.
When did you turn
And I
65?
I'll be 67 this year.
Oh my gosh. See, I don't even think of age. I don't ever think of age.
And we learn from experience. And what I found out that year is I turned 65 in December. And when I filed and contacted them in January to file that, they said, no, actually, you get the reduction for your previous year.
Really?
So they amended my taxes. Yes, and I got a credit. Yes.
So now that you've turned 65, what did you learn about an over 65 exemption? What does that really get
Well,
you?
in school taxes, county taxes, even the mud taxes, everything is reduced. The amount of and you keep your homestead. And then you have an additional reduction in value for assessed value for your taxes. So, it's a pretty good savings. And
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll always tell people when they look online, that number does not reflect any of what
exemptions.
Yeah, any exemptions.
It doesn't even reflect the homestead exemption,
right,
does
that's
it?
right.
So with in this consumer-driven world where our especially our younger clients, they're online for everything, right? So when they see a number, they can't get caught up in that number because it's a number without assuming any exemptions.
Any exemptions. So then we'll go online and I'll show them how to pull it up. We'll pull it up and let them see what that current owner is paying with their homestead exemption.
Got it.
Because you can go online and see what that homeowner, you can see what their exemptions are and what they're paying. So that helps them see the real number of what the reduced price will be.
Right. So I know that we always like to keep our podcast short, but the reality is there's so much we could share. So I cannot let this conversation go without touching on the fact that through the years, especially in the suburbs, but in the city as well, we've seen Houston grow and see new construction being built all the time in these areas. And I don't think there's really many people that are that could rival you on what you do with new construction. A lot of times people think they don't need an agent if they're buying new, but in fact, I think that's even more of a reason you need an agent for new construction.
Absolutely.
So I know through the years that you have sold people, you've sold just the dirt sale, and then you help them pick the plan and the construction and help them with the how they want to finish the home, etc. So walk us through a little bit about the advantage of using an agent when they buy new construction.
I'll give you an example. This summer I closed a home. The family was from the Midwest. They came down. We picked the lot. We picked the floor plan. I went with them and we did all of the selections, and then they went back home. So every week or two, I would go over. Ron would take his drone, and we followed this home from foundation to the very final.
They weren't here, but you were their eyes and their ears.
Yeah, so I would send them videos of this is how the house looks on the lot. And like one of the last aerial, I was standing inside the house, at frame stage, and I could wave up to the camera. But it was amazing to be able to share all of that with them. They said they felt like they were here because they were getting these great updates.
And so you do their walkthroughs for them and all of that. So you're really their eyes and their ears for everything.
I did their first couple of walkthroughs even before they came. I'm mean with the blue tape, so I go in and I have 2 rolls of blue tape.
You're speaking my language, Janice.
I'm a blue tape. I love, even to the point where I go to my friend's house and it's hard to turn it off, and I'll say, I think you have a leak.
I do that too. I think some of my friends don't even want me in their house. I said that the other day. I went over to a friend's house and I said, you know what? These light bulbs are all different colors. I'm getting a headache looking at all your different light bulbs. Yeah. So we
have trained eyes.
We have trained eyes, and that's what they said. They said, wow, we've been here and we don't even really notice that. So I think that's great. So above and beyond means so much more. But I'm going to close today and definitely would want you to come back and speak more, because we could just talk. And but one thing I think that is really cute, and we talked about it in this morning's sales meetings, is I don't think that anyone establishes relationships with the children of these families like you do. Now, I know you're the baby whisperer.
I love babies. Absolutely.
What's the most homes you've shown a relocation client in a day? Be honest.
Like 22, 23.
I think I have you topped.
And that was with kids and babies and everything.
Yes, that's a lot.
If it's just a single person, or a couple, you can
hit
easily
30.
You can hit 30 easily. Yeah.
Not without exhaustion.
And it is. We're
trained. Can you still hit 30 at 67?
I can, and we're trained professionals, and thankfully with our navigation systems and our cars and being able to lay it all out, I can knock off a list of 30 if I have to.
Yeah, and I do know also, because you and I talk a lot, I do know also that you may be in the middle of working with somebody and they may have identified a home, but yet if you see another home that came on the market that night, you're going to get them out there right away while they're in town and show it to them. So, and I would say the average realtor spends a lot of hours a day, but I know for a fact that you are my nighttime chatter. And so I know I can call you at 12 or 1 in the morning and I go, are you up? Yeah, I'm up. So I'll text you and ask you if you're up. So they say that real estate never sleeps, and I know that you don't either. So I think people are very lucky when they have you as their agent.
Thank you.
That. I know I'm very lucky as your broker, but I'm even more lucky as you're one of my very best friends.
And you were my mentor, so
Thank
hey.
you. Aw. I know you're. I know Gloria always says there's no love in business, but I do love you.
I know.
So anyway, thank you for being on today's podcast. I love it.
Pleasure to be here.
And we will do it again for sure.
Awesome.
And please remember, your home is
Our expertise.
our expertise. Thank you for tuning in.